I am so excited to be having this conversation with you both because as we chatted a little bit about in the back room, you both were at the absolute top of your sports. You dominated, you won at every single level, and then you retired at like 35, both of you, and decided to go conquer again in a different area in entrepreneurship. So Maria, I want to start with you here. What was that transition like? Because you're going from pouring all of you, right, into your sport, and then doing that on the business side.
Well, I'll start by saying that after all of that, we got to play pickleball, and I think this is a chance to redeem ourselves because yes. I don't know about you, but that was pretty bad out there yesterday.
I didn't bring my A game.
I know
sorry.
there was no snow for you, but I have no excuses, and it was pretty bad on my end. I think when you've done something, I started playing tennis when I was 4 years old, and it took 28 years of my life, and I think as a woman, you know that there will be an end. You don't know if it's because of injury, perhaps you want to start a family or any other reason. So from a young age, I felt like my mind was already there, towards what is that second act, what is the next chapter. I had a very business frame of mind and perspective, and so it felt like a natural transition, but to say that it is difficult, and it's always a very difficult decision when so much of your life and passion is filled by this one thing and one journey, and it's a huge part of your identity, so letting it go and allowing for other things to come into your life is a change, but I feel like I've welcomed it quite well into my life.
For me, I felt pretty lucky, honestly. My career started at such a young age, and I was able to work with these incredible brands, these legacy brands within the sport, outside of the sport, and I really got involved over the years. I was like, oh, well, hey, can I have a little input on this ad? Hey, can I have a little input on how the product's made? I'm testing the product. I'm doing so much with them that I got to really learn from the best. And, I guess for me, I was like, I'm going to do this forever. So when the day of retirement came, I'm like, oh, wow, maybe I can take what I've learned from these incredible brands and, apply it to my own business. Which is also very thrilling and exciting, but also terrifying because it's easy to blame the brand, like, oh, they didn't follow what I said, and that's why it didn't do well, or this or that. But this is really on your shoulders, your creative, vision being put out there to the world for everyone to see. So you want to get it right, and I felt fortunate to have that sort of background going into it.
When you say you've been doing this your whole life, I mean, you literally started working with brands when you were
Seven
years old. And I think what's so incredible, I find, about athletes' days is everything is scheduled. The time you wake up, the time you eat, what you eat. Maria, you put on your left shoe first, right?
I did. You did your homework.
You put on your left shoe first. Like, that is how disciplined and diligent a day is. And that's sort of the antithesis in a lot of ways of what it looks like to then walk into an entrepreneurial space. So what was that transition in terms of how did you learn what a day looks like? Who were you leaning on for that?
I don't know if I agree because actually so many of the lessons and the routines and that work ethic that I applied from all the team members, people that I worked with, I now get to apply in my life. And it feels much more relatable to when I was a high-performing, playing in front of thousands of people every single week. Now, I feel close to my friends that are mothers as well, having a young boy, being an entrepreneur and facing those challenges, but also being in a second act of a career. It's very humbling because I was at the top for so many years, but I also realized that it took me over 10, 15 years to get to center court of Wimbledon, right? It didn't start from when I started playing tennis. It took when I was a teenager. So just like in a second act or the next chapter, it takes that much work and that much commitment and time to build your own confidence, which is humbling because we're so used to, just being the best at what we did. But it's an amazing journey nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree in a way. For me, snowboarding and skateboarding was very uncool to try hard or the athleticism was definitely there, but I was taking the chairlift I was riding downhill. It wasn't as involved, but I think that was one thing that I brought to the sport that the others weren't, is that once my gear was on, once I was on the mountain, I was disciplined. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to show up. I'm not going to dilly-dally. I'm going to get to my tricks while I'm feeling the most, alert and fresh, and then I'm going to get out. And then tomorrow, here's the plan of action. And, so it wasn't down to the minute of what I was training, but I definitely had that drive and that ability to focus when I needed to. And bringing that to business is an amazing tool to be able to hone in on what needs to be fixed and being able to kind of push through when you need to.
Maria mentioned her team and leaning on that team as a through line from sport to this transition. But for you, Shaun, it's a pretty individual sport. You're kind of going out there and doing your thing on your own. You've talked about sort of being a lone wolf and then needing to figure out how to lean on other people at all.
Yeah, that was the hardest for me, because it was truly leaving a individual sport for a team sport, and I can't do everything. I have to rely on the people around me, and getting everyone on the same page, especially when like designing something. It's like, okay, here's the vibe, here's the mood board. Are we all on the same page? Like, you have to use visuals. You have to really get together with people that have the same mindset and cultivate that product or whatever we're putting out there. So I think that was my hardest, was really like learning to be a team player and not, and realizing everybody's not on the same speed, and then highlighting people for what they do really well.
Did you just like slam down your gold medals and say like, no, look at me, I know what I'm doing?
Only on Mondays.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Maria, I want to get this right because I found this incredibly interesting. In an interview, you talked about the natural transition. You think it's natural for athletes to then go into an entrepreneurial space. And one of the things that you cited is that 80% of Fortune 500 executives that are women have some sort of athletic background. And I found that pretty astounding. What specific skills do you think translate there?
The mindset. I think the resiliency, not giving up, of showing up at work when you're supposed to, being humble about your work, and the grind. In sport, you're a winner one day, and the next day you are, losing first round in the middle of nowhere in Asia. And while you're holding the trophy, your opponents from around the world that lost early in that tournament are training to beat you the next week. So although, it's a big, you're full of self-esteem when you win, that the next week you can just, your feet are on the ground. So a lot of that mindset is applied in business. And back to some of the things you said about having a team. I mean, team is everything. You walk down the tunnel alone, but from every day, from when you wake up, you're measuring your HRV, to how you slept, to what you're eating. Everyone's always involved till that last second when they say go.
When you're talking about leveraging your athletic achievements, I think a lot of us see this, right? Athletes becoming the face of some sort of brand, but having actual equity or starting from the ground up in trying to build that brand is a little bit different. What was that process like for you?
Well, at the beginning of your career, when you don't have that much money, and tennis is a very expensive sport, you end up investing a lot with zero guarantee on that investment, your time, your commitment, your family's money. So in the beginning, those, face of deals, the Nike partnerships, or for me, it was Motorola and Land Rover at the very beginning. Those were checks that just allowed me, to travel, to have a bigger team. Like now I could have a physical therapist, I have a fitness trainer, not just a tennis coach. Later in your career, when you feel like you're a little bit more financially stable, Supergoop was one of my first investments, and it just came from the fact that I was someone that used the product. I found it on a Sephora shelf. They had 5 employees at the time. I basically knocked on Holly Thagard's door and said, listen, I wear your stuff when I play all over the world. It's a product I love. How can I help you? I don't want a check in the mail, but maybe in a few years when you do well, and sold for $750 million a couple of years ago. And that's been my motto for investing. Like, if this is a product that you send to me and I live with and my friends and my mom friends use, then this is what I make an investment in.
What did she say? I mean, when you said, I just use your sunscreen and your products, your sun blocker and your products.
She was into it. I made an investment and we worked on from there.
That's pretty amazing.
I'd slide the DM now. If I like the company, I'm like, hey, like, it's such an amazing thing, though. You're like, I'm out here doing what I do best, and I'm using your product to help me get the job done. And as a business owner, I mean, what could be more of a compliment than getting a phone call from somebody that you might already know of or a fan of, and they're like, hey, I truly love this, and it makes my life better and my job easier, and I'd like to work with you. I mean, that's
And
a
it
powerful
feels so
message.
much more real, right? That the brands receive that information from you rather than the other way around. They know from the get-go that you're into this.
How do you stay true to that authenticity that you're talking about? Because initially, for a lot of athletes, and they talk about this, how it's really exciting when brands start to come to them. And then you sort of get to this era of discernment. Okay, how do I want to work with these different folks?
I don't know how it was for you, but ultimately, I in my soul, I was the deepest competitor. Like that's what really mattered to me. And I knew that when I woke up in the morning, I wanted to be a tennis champion. And all of the things that came my way and the opportunities and the people that I was introduced to were just bonuses. They were incredible bonuses to have, and they, enriched my life. And wow, I had amazing partnerships. But if I didn't wake up and have that fire in me, I know that those relationships and partnerships and assets wouldn't be there. So I loved the grind of what I did. I knew that was my core mission, and the more I won, the more I'd have opportunities. And so while I could put in that focus and drive, I wanted to make the most of it.
I'd say the same. I mean, through success kind of opened these doors. And then through sponsorship, you would learn so much. I mean, I always felt like, and I don't know how you felt, but you're joining a sponsor, an endorsement, you're really trying to best fit their mold that they've built while still being yourself. I felt like, here's our logo, here's our slogan, here's the color palette we use, here's, how we do our ads, it's, here's the places that we promote. So, it was really amazing to see that happening, but also you're kind of at the whim of the sponsor of what they want to do. If they're deciding to, hey, we're going to wear all green outfits, you're wearing all green outfits, whatever it is that they're pushing. So when creating your own mold and creating your own business and company, it's just such an exciting thing to be the one creating that mold, and being able to shift, the agenda in which way you want.
Do you think about that now with your own brand? Because you're now the person who is reaching out to these athletes in a lot of ways. Are you thinking about wanting to flip that script at all?
Yeah, I mean, I love empowering the athletes. I mean, that was one of the wildest experiences was we were creating, probably dive into it more, but this thing called the Snow League, which is an international tour for freestyle snowboarding and skiing. And it was the most bizarre yet humbling experience to call these athletes who I've competed against that probably few aren't my biggest fan, you know what I mean? And being like, hey, look, like I've lived the life you've lived for the last 20-something years, but I want to help. I'm here to help. Like, how can I change the mold? How can I make it better for the athletes? And who better to hear that?
By the way, that's not easy to do. That's very brave because when you're in it, I mean, you're not Mr. Nice Guy.
Totally. Hey, bud. It's
based on my own experience.
It's me.
You're not exactly friends with these people when you have to go out between the lines and kind of try to professionally kill them.
Yeah, for sure. But I think they kind of, once you've stepped away from the field of play, it really kind of is it's a disarming experience. They don't see you as such a threat, and then you kind of get to bond on those roots of like, hey, you started this sport as a little kid, so did I. Hey, you got your first same as me. Oh, I get what it's like to be at the top of the mountain at 7 a.m. when the sun hasn't come out, or 6 a.m. sun hasn't come out, and we're doing our runs through the icy pipe and blah blah. Like I get it, and being able to kind of level with the athletes on that, and then be like, hey, I'm trying to push this forward, but I don't want to be the generation that exited the sport that's now telling the next generation how it's going to be. Right. Because I don't want to be that person. I want to make the sport with that generation to make sure it's what they want.
What always strikes me is just how much, and I said this off the top, but I just want to underscore. So most athletes, right, you're at the peak of your performance years in your 20s, maybe into your 30s. If you're Tom Brady or LeBron James, you're kind of trying to make everybody feel bad, but that's a different thing into your 40s. That's not something we see, right? And so you all in your 30s are then going out and trying to conquer this again. what is the most difficult thing that you have had to contend with, and what is something that you're hoping to leave as more and more athletes continue to make this transition a little bit easier?
I don't know if it's the most difficult, but I've tried to stay really curious and learn through a lot of the engagements that I'm a part of. Part of the reason I joined, I was invited to be on the board of Montclair a couple of years ago, and the main reason I joined was that I could sit at a table with Mr. Remo Ruffini and learn from this guy that's turned around Montclair in the last 7 to 10 years, and Stone Island, and that was my process from a young age. I mean, I sat when we renegotiated my Nike contract. I was 18 years old after I won my first Grand Slam, and my dad said, "You should be in that room. This is your money, your future. This is the brand that you're going to work with. Be in the room," even though I had no idea what any of it meant. So all those, those are the lessons that I still apply to my life. But you continue to shape this athletic mindset in everything that I do. I think it's, back to being a female that's performed to the highest ability in our sport, that's now in business. I want to encourage so many young athletes to keep doing that, particularly the female athletes. They have such a big, large platform, so much responsibility on their sport, but also the ability to grow in so many areas. And I encourage that while still being focused on that core mission, which is being the athlete.
The Montclair thing stuck with me. Amazing brand. I actually work with them.
You were in the campaign.
I'm one of the faces, and we do a collaborative snowboard.
Oh, stop bragging.
No, I know.
It's like, I'm behind the scenes,
I know.
you're on the scene.
But it was so great to work with them, right? I mean, amazing, visionaries and bringing things to life, and I was so thrilled to work with them. So put in a good word. No,
You're renewing your contract soon?
We just did. We're good.
Damn it.
No, but gosh, I think for me, I don't know. I always felt like, especially snowboarding to skateboarding, there's no real playbook to the sport. It wasn't like, oh, we'll do this and then, make a team in high school, then maybe college, maybe the pros. I don't know the path for tennis exactly, but football, other traditional sports, there was no playbook. And so I was kind of like inventing it as I went. And, the only kind of shining light I had was Tony Hawk. So I was watching him be a family man as well as a businessman and cross from the sport of skateboarding to like everyone's household with the video game, with commercials, all these things. And so he was the only one I got to see, do something like that within our sport. A lot of the other characters or people, professionals in the sport were pretty rebellious. I remember my favorite snowboarder had a mohawk, a black mohawk, and he had his teeth filed into fangs. His name was Damian Sanders. I was like, Mom, this guy's he's great. My mom's like, no, Tony's great, right? Anyways, so I think for me...
Well, judging by your teeth, it looks like you followed her
I followed
advice.
Tony, yeah. So I think for me, it's all been about, just kind of leading by example. If I can come out of that world of sports that wasn't really deemed a real sport, a legitimate sport for so long, and then come into the space of business and these things and kind of show a different way for athletes within our sport to be like, oh, well, that's okay. Well, what am I going to do after? Is it like football where I'm going to go commentary or do this or do that? Like, oh, I've seen Shaun take this path, and that's a path I could maybe, walk down one day. So I don't know. I feel like for me, it's all kind of uncharted terrain for the most part, but I'm thrilled to be in the weeds of it all, and yeah.
There's some sort of metaphor there about the uncharted terrain that you took through the half pipe now to the uncharted terrain you're taking through business. So I appreciate that layup there.
That's literally why we called the brand White Space.
Yep.
It's a play on my name, but white space is a gap in the market. It's a void waiting for something new. It's like, what are your competitors not doing that you could do? What tennis, training could you do that your competitor's not doing? Like, what's that thing that's going to separate you? So.
And what does that look like? The clock is beeping at us, telling us we've already gone over our time, which is amazing because it feels like it flew by. And we know, Shaun, that you were in the middle of demolishing your kitchen, right? So you got to...
I came from a kitchen renovation down in Ventura. I was with the Property Brothers, and they asked me to do this show called Celebrity IOU. where you pick a friend and you redo their living room or kitchen or whatever. So I was down there with sledgehammers. I still have the drywall in my. She's
So
like,
clearly
"Oh,
we were
how'd you
interrupting
think of the
important
last speaker?" And I was like, "I missed it." Well, where were you? I was demoing a kitchen. But, you know.
So we will let you get back to demoing
gotta
your
get back to the kitchen.
Maria, Shaun, thank you so
Thank you.
very much for
Thank
this.
you.
Having us.